Good morning and welcome to the deal. I'm your host Ed Clark, and it's Sunday, April the 19th edition of the deal, and we're trying to make some sense of what's going on with this COVID-19, and obviously there's still a lot more to do to try to stem the tide, and there's still people out here calling for us to go back to normal, and what normal means at this point, I'm not sure, but we'll get there when we get there. Today, helping us to discuss this, as always, is our resident political science professor, Val Atkinson. And I'm going to go ahead and bring Val in because I don't want to waste any time in getting him right on. Val, welcome back to the deal.
Thank you, Ed. Good to be here, buddy.
Look, there were people downtown Raleigh this week protesting, saying they wanted things open back up, and I don't even know what that means. To tell you the truth, can you help me put this into perspective? What they were trying to agitate for, and then they were also in Michigan and some other states.
It's a coordinated effort, Ed. You have some people who are, first and foremost, they are Trump supporters. They are trying to open back up the economy. They feel that the economy is going to be Donald Trump's plus card, and forgive the pun, but it will also be his Trump card in this 2020 election coming up in November. So they don't want the economy to look too bad. They know the longer it stays closed down, if you will, the more difficult it's going to be to come back. And so they're protesting that. The other thing that they are also protesting is the attention going away from the president and his message of white supremacy, albeit clandestine. He's not coming out and saying that, but his supporters know who and what he is really about.
Right.
And he can't have his rallies. He can't do anything. So that's really taken away. They want things to get back to normal so he can have his rallies, have CNN and MSNBC to give him free airtime for his rallies, and so that he can stir up his base. That's what this is all about, long and short. The whole piece about opening up the economy, and let's go back to school, and it's not as bad as it seemed. All of those things are ruse. They are meant to distract. They don't care if you know that half of what they say is a lie. They just want to distract us at any cost.
Right. But this is dangerous for a lot of people. We've seen in the last week a major outbreak in a place like South Dakota that did nothing at all to do social distancing. They didn't have any kind of lockdown compared to anybody else. And a Smithfield meat processing plant now has over 800 people who were affected by COVID-19. We just saw Saturday the beaches open in Florida. What is your fear about rushing towards opening back up if we see, Florida obviously doesn't seem to care. The governor there has decided he's going to do what he's going to do. In Texas is talking about doing. What is your fear of what might happen?
Well, the greatest fear, Ed, is opening up too soon and having a relapse. The worst thing that could happen from opening up too soon is that people get joyous. It looks like things are working. And then the disease starts spreading again. More people become infected. More people die. And we have to start a shutdown again, a second shutdown. This time it will be even worse than the first time. Mm-hmm. And people will adhere to it. And those businesses are going to be closed longer the second time than they are this time. Right. So you might as well get it right the first time. Let's stay closed a little longer if we have to. And then let's open up at an appropriate time so that we don't have to go back and redo this again. Because if you've got to do this a second time, we're going to see damage done to the American economy that makes the Great Depression looks almost like child's play. So we've got to get it right. So if we have to stay closed and locked down for an extra few weeks or even an extra couple of months, I think we ought to do so.
Yeah, I think so too. I want to remind the folks you're watching The Deal with Ed Clark, and as always on Sundays and Wednesdays, I have our resident political science professor Val Atkinson, also an author and a radio talk show host for a lot of years. We're fortunate that we're able to get him on and talk about, this from a whole bunch of different perspectives. Coming up a little bit later in the show, we'll have Camillus Dancy from Edgecombe County, North Carolina, to talk about an outbreak of COVID-19 in a small town down near Pine Tops, North Carolina. And then also H.D. Pope and Stacy Walker, they're two funeral directors who were talking about how things have changed in the funeral business around COVID-19 and what they think the long-term view is. And we're hoping to have one other guest. I'm not sure if they're going to be on or not. So I'll hold that, and they may not be on until Wednesday. And we'll be back here again on Wednesday night. But in the meantime, Val, let's shift gears a little bit to the political, just purely political. Joe Biden obviously is the nominee for the Democratic Party unless something happens between now and November. What do we have to look forward to in terms of campaigning? We know what Trump's doing. He's using his 5 o'clock Corona briefings to politic, which is not fair and is not right, but he's doing it. How does Joe Biden match that? What could he possibly do to get the attention that Donald Trump gets? He can command from being president.
I think he's doing the exact right thing right now, which is taking the zero option, meaning doing nothing. I don't think he has to do anything at all. I think what Donald Trump wants to do is egg Joe Biden on. Hopefully he'll fall into one of those ditches that Donald Trump digs every day, make a gaffe, say something wrong, and then we have a whole new campaign issue and we talk about nothing but that for the next few months. Mm-hmm. And Joe Biden needs not to help him in this little charade, this little game he's playing. Right. If Donald Trump wants to talk about something, let's talk about policy. Let's talk about the law. Let's talk about the process by which you are elected. Let's talk about the Electoral College. Let's talk about a lot of things that, American people are interested in, and not some crazy trumped up campaign issue that Donald Trump is trying to put doubt in the minds of the voters as to whether or not Joe Biden is up to speed or not for the job of presidency. And it's ironic that would be one of his strategies, Ed, because in modern history, I challenge anyone to come up with a president who's been least qualified, least competent, less competent to play the role or be a president of the United States than Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. This guy would fail a 5th grade civics test right now. There's no way he could pass. He knows nothing about the job that he has. So what he's done in the past has been successful in his businesses. He manages to change subjects.
Right.
He's brilliant at that. So that's what he wants to do, is to get involved in something other than the job, because he is inadequate when it comes to that.
Yeah.
So I think Biden's strategy is, first of all, let's go ahead and make your pronouncement about who your vice president is going to be, and let's let everybody talk about that for a while. And then let's lay out some things about what you want to change when you become president. Take control of the narrative, make Trump, reply to what you're saying, react to what you're doing, take control of that, as opposed to allowing him to set the narrative. If you do that, you're going to be on the defensive. You're going to be trying to answer questions. You're going to sound like you don't know what you're doing. Right. So the long answer to a short question, but I think he's right for doing nothing right now. Don't give Donald Trump an opportunity to set the narrative. You're not here to answer his questions.
Right, exactly. That's a good point. When you were talking, you just gave me a program idea that we probably need to do. We maybe need to call up our friend Irv Joyner, who's a constitutional attorney over at North Carolina Central University Law School, to talk about this whole notion that Trump was saying that he had this absolute authority and he could do whatever he wanted to, and so on and so forth. And so for most of the week, the whole country was occupied with him saying that he could open things up, whether the governors wanted to him or not. And then by the end of the week, Trump was saying that it was up to the governors to do, and the governors were totally responsible. It goes back to your whole notion that he couldn't pass a civics class because he doesn't understand the Constitution or the law, and which is really troubling that this man is the president of the United States. Let's shift gears a little bit, Val, again, and let's talk about what governors are doing in the state of North Carolina where we are. So let's talk about that first. One of the things that's really stuck out to me is that if you look at the population of states, North Carolina is around the 9th or 10th most populous state, but they're nowhere near the numbers that some of the other states are in infections and all that stuff. How do you rate this particular governor, Governor Cooper in North Carolina, for what he's done? And can you compare that to another state of similar size like Georgia, where they seem to have so many more cases?
Well, one of the things that Roy Cooper, who's the governor of North Carolina, obviously, is doing is that he gets out in front of issues, and he gives mandates and he sets policy, and then he goes on to another part. He doesn't become reactionary, waiting on Donald Trump or someone else to set the tone for him. Mm-hmm. Cooper appears to know what he wants to do. He knows what his next step is while he's in the middle of the current step, which is nothing but good planning and foresight. He's always had good planning and foresight, even when he was Attorney General of the state of North Carolina. But I think what he's doing right now in terms of having a wait and see, go A, B, and then C, instead of A, C, F, like the Trump wants to do, I think he is showing great leadership, Ed. Governor Cooper is putting himself in the category of highly competent, highly successful governors. And the reason he's doing so well in a state like North Carolina compared to a state like Georgia is because he has a lot of support, field grade people who've been around politics for a long time in the legislature, in the judicial branches, and people who understand. He's got a wealth of NGOs to call on. Mm-hmm. Got a great university system here, packed with people like Irv Joyner, as you was mentioning, but people in the university system who provide all kinds of high quality brain power to help him out in these troubling times. So, and not to say that the state of Georgia is inept or don't have these kind of people, but we are very fortunate in North Carolina to have the type of people and the quantity of people that we have to wrestle and tackle these problems at this particular time. Here in the Triangle area, we're not known for Durham is known for the City of Medicine. UNC Chapel Hill School of Medicine is always ranked very high. They just became #1 in the university systems about a year ago. They stole that from the great medical schools in Massachusetts. Duke University Medical Center is always ranked very high and bringing out some great things. The VA system, which is also in Durham, provides a lot of help as well. We're very fortunate here in the state of North Carolina to have access to facilities and opportunities, the great minds that this state produces. Oftentimes, a lot of our leaders stay here once they finish their training, their education. They stay in the state of North Carolina to help this economy, to help our society out, wherein many other states, kids graduate from school and they move on to go someplace else that they can be gainfully employed.
Right.
So we're doing well here. I think Georgia was a great example, a great comparison that you came up with, because as of the last census, they're the state right above us in terms of population. They have 16 electoral college votes and we have 15. So we expect to pass them on this next census route. I think where we are doing a little better here in terms of our capability of doing things, we have about 3 major population centers, and you could say 5 if you throw in Fayetteville and some other areas. But when you look at the Triangle area, you look at Wilmington, the Triad, the mountain area in Buncombe County, we have a lot of things that a guy like Roy Cooper can call upon in trying times like we have here now. Today.
I hear you. Hey, in the time we got left, Val, I'm a shift gears again and go back to national politics for just a second. We had already established that Joe Biden is for all intent and purpose the nominee for the Democrats. He did promise that he was going to nominate a woman for vice president. You got odds on who that pick is going to be?
Yes. I'm willing to make a bet right now. And I'll first say that I have been known to lose a bet here there. But I'll tell you, I think it's going to be Stacey Abrams out of Georgia, Ed. The reason being is that we need a high turnout from the African-American community to have a chance to win this election in November. And I think that if he did not have a African-American on his ticket, that just makes it a little hard. It doesn't mean he can't win. Right. It makes it a little more difficult. Makes it a little easier if he has that person on the ticket. Because I'm hearing news that we may have some people within the Bernie Sanders camp that are still not totally satisfied with the way things ended up. And they are asking Joe Biden to go out and prove to the old Sanders supporters that he is worthy of their support and backing. And that doesn't sound good at all.
No.
To have somebody say something like that at this stage of the game. So therefore, we need to make sure we have every opportunity to get the base out. The base for the Democratic Party is the African-American vote. That is the base. And we need to make sure we have every opportunity to maximize that turnout. So having Stacey Abrams on the ticket will help immensely with that, more so than any of the other candidates that I could think of. I think she would do better than Kamala Harris even, or Val Deming. I think she would do better than some of the white ones.
Klobuchar maybe, or Warren.
And Elizabeth Warren.
Yeah.
So it's hands down, as far as I'm concerned, for Stacey Abrams, who ran unsuccessfully for governor for the state of Georgia back in 18.
Mm. Yeah, that's a good assessment. I'm not even going to say anything. I'm going to let you put your name out there,
I'll do that.
I'll make my prediction later on. How about that? Uh, so we're coming up to our end of time in this segment, Val. But again, I always appreciate you taking the time to come in and talk with us about whatever's going on, whether it's COVID or the national politics or whatever. I do. I think I got an assignment for you. I do want to try to get a hold of Herb Joyner or somebody to come in and talk about the constitutional questions that the president has been raising, because I think that's really important. So hopefully by our Wednesday show, maybe we can corral Irv and get him on here for a few minutes and talk about that.
We'll see what we can do.
All right. So in the meantime, we're going to take a break. And when we come back, Camillus Dancy, he's a local legend down in Eastern North Carolina. He covers politics and does a whole bunch of stuff. He's a rabble rouser, but he does it for a good cause. We're going to talk with him, and then we're going to end up tonight with H.D. Pope, who's a funeral director in the same area in Rocky Mount in Roanoke Rapids, and Stacy Walker, who's a funeral director in Lillington, North Carolina, to talk about the changes in funerals around this COVID-19. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Happy birthday to you.
I've never done this before.
Happy birthday to you.
We're here for Precious.
Happy birthday, dear Precious.
Day 4.
You may not understand.
Happy birthday to you.
Yeah, this is chapter 32.
And welcome back to The Deal. I'm your host, Ed Clark. And as I promised, we'd be bringing in some guests this morning. One of the guests that I thought about right away was Camillus Dancy from Pine Tops, North Carolina. And the reason why I wanted to talk to Camillus is that I've been following him for a long time, and he has a website called The Political Agitator. He's also found on Facebook. But Camillus has been talking a lot about what's happening with the number of increases in cases of COVID-19 out in Eastern North Carolina, particularly Edgecombe, Nash, and Wilson County. And Camillus, welcome to The Deal.
Good morning. How you doing?
Well, Camillus, I saw some numbers this morning, and that's why I wanted to reach out and call you. Edgecombe County, it said there were 49 confirmed cases. This is, and again, these numbers, I don't like to use the numbers specifically because I don't like the whole notion of confirmed cases, because I think a whole lot more people have COVID-19. But Edgecombe County, it said there were 49 confirmed cases, Nash 53, and Wilson 103, and 6 people dead. And one of the things I've been reading in the things that you've been writing is about the people not seeming to take this serious enough. And so I'd like for you to tell our viewers and listeners, what your assessment of what's going on in Eastern North Carolina.
All right. Yeah, like you said, I'm in Pine Tops, North Carolina, which is Edgecombe County. It's unique because I'm about 25 miles from Rocky Mount, about 20 miles from Wilson, and about 25 miles from Greenville. So I'm sort of like centrally located. But here in Edgecombe County, actually the numbers, on yesterday it was 46 confirmed cases, and today it went up to 52. So we added on 6 more cases today. We've been adding about 4 to 6 cases since Tuesday. I forgot what the number were on Tuesday, but from Tuesday until today, we've been adding about 4 to 6 people. So we have 52 confirmed cases, 1 death, a friend of mine, his wife. I knew the family, both families, and that kind of shocked me. And then she was fertilized last Saturday, and then it's 13 number of recovered cases.
Okay.
What's been going on in Pine Top is it's been kind of scary because a couple of weeks ago, if you saw on the news, we had a party. He was the first one. One of the guys was locked up for having a party, which was out in the county. But that was not the party that I think some cases came out of, and I'm quite sure that probably did. But actually, it's been two more parties. One was for an elderly lady. The family got together, and then another one was some younger folk. So it's been some people going to the hospital basically every week, every day since about for the last week or two.
Well, Camillus, I mean, you live down there, you know the folks. Is it? I know they get the news just like everybody else. They can get stations from Greenville, they can get stations from Raleigh. Obviously, they're hearing the news. Is it that people aren't taking it serious, or they don't think it's going to affect them? But what do you think is going on?
Well, I don't think they're taking it serious because, see, I didn't even mention the number of businesses, plants that people have been tested positive, and some of these people that live in Pine Top, it's a company right there in Pine Top that some of those people work at, but it's like in Tarboro, Rocky Mount. It's like they're not taking it serious, and I think, and what I don't understand is, like I say, the female that was buried on last Saturday, I mean, close ties to the Pine Top. I mean, so I just don't understand. I mean, I live like 3 miles out of Pine Top and 7 miles out of Tarboro, and we're right here, and they're reading my pages. I mean, in fact, I got a call this morning where someone has been tested positive at the Edgecombe County Social Services building. So, wow. I mean, these people know what's going on. I just don't understand. I understand it was a party last night. The police had to go out. I mean, I heard on the scandal. So I just don't understand what it's going to take. I think it's going to take these extra people that's been tested, and I'm counting numbers, and I'm thinking it's around maybe 15 just in Pine Top. So, I mean, I hope nobody dies, but, I'm just thinking that what will it take? I mean, I hope everybody recover. Yeah. But it's very scary.
It is.
It's scary.
Yeah, it is scary. I want to remind the viewers and listeners, you're listening to The Deal with Ed Clark, and we're fortunate to have Camillus Dancy on the phone with us. He's the political agitator. You can go to his website, thepoliticalagitator.com. He's also on Facebook, or you can look him up. We'll probably have a link for you to find him. I've been following him for a long time, and he's been a really good source of news from Eastern North Carolina. I know we have viewers and listeners from all over the country and actually all over the world on the deal with edclark.com. But the reason why I want to concentrate on Eastern North Carolina, because I think it's an archetype, Camillus, of what could happen around the country. All these people are itching to get back to normal, and I'll put that in quotes, right? They say they want to get back to normal, but normal means not paying attention. So the other day in Raleigh downtown, this is before what happened in Michigan and Ohio and other places. People were protesting about businesses still being closed and they want things to go back to normal. Have people in Eastern North Carolina in those small towns been talking the same way those people that showed up at the legislature in Raleigh the other day, that they want things open back up?
Well, the majority of the people I am in contact with, they actually want, and I want, is a 2-week shutdown, so maybe we can flatten the curve. I think everybody here mostly wants to see it shut down. However, I've been kind of upset with the pastors in the local area, from Edgecombe to Nash to Pitt. It seems to me that the pastors are more focused on trying to have drive-in services and ever how many they can get in their church, and to me the focus need to be on making sure that the local stores, they got the proper PPE. Some of them still don't have it. Myself, my place of employment, we're having some of the employees are having a 2-week layoff. I didn't meet the cut, so I got to go to work every day. But I mean, you know, I want to be home with my family. I mean, I trust and believe, but I know the more I go out, the more I am, you know, the possibility I could contract the virus.
Sure.
I mean, but I know, and I try to keep my family in. My dad, I have to, shop for him. I try to shop for my wife and my son because I don't want everybody out. But like I said, the majority of the people that I've come in contact with and talking to online and stuff, they want to see a 2-week shutdown because it's not peaked here. I mean, like I said, I'm getting 4 to 6 people every day. So it has not peaked here in Edgecombe County. I really believe Edgecombe County is going to be a hot spot.
Yeah.
And I know all the people. And I know all the people. I mean, that's the thing. I know them all.
And I know you do, and I know you do because you're out and about in the community all the time. And like I said, whenever I want news from Eastern North Carolina, I'll go to your page, and I know I'm going to get the straight deal from you. You don't pull any punches, and that's why you call it a political agitator. Camillus, another thing I've been thinking about is I'm pretty sure that you're taking precautions. You may be wearing a mask and that kind of thing. Have you seen that out there in those rural communities too? Are people wearing masks in at all? Do you see that?
Some, but I think it's been kind of hard to get masks here. Our local grocery store had some the other week, but I think I bought them all that Saturday. I don't think they had any sense.
Right. And
I took 50 to the Edgecombe County Jail because what people need to understand is we don't want our jailers, the guys that's locked up. We don't want them to be mad, and upset and have another scenario, in the county and stuff.
Sure.
So, we need to, try to make sure that we get the proper PPE because now I have some, and I wear them every day. At first I didn't have anything,
sure.
But since I got it, I'm wearing it every day. It's just, I go places and I'm seeing people without it, but I'm just thinking maybe they don't have it.
Right.
I'm hoping that's the case.
Yeah, I hear you, Camillus. I'm just really concerned that these small towns. I'm from a small town too, Bun Level, North Carolina, and down in Harnett County, and in the numbers in Harnett County, I saw this morning were 53, I believe it was, and 3 dead in a county of only 100. A little over 100,000 people. That's not good numbers to me, and I'm concerned about Edgecombe, Nash, and Wilson County and those kind of places because they're starting to have as many numbers as Wake County. That's crazy. I mean, Wake County is the second largest county in the state, 1 million people here, and then you're talking about counties that have a little over 100,000 people. And they're starting to see some of the same numbers. I want to remind the listeners and viewers that you're watching The Deal, and I have Camillus Dancy on the phone with me, the political agitator, at thepoliticalagitator.com. You can also find him on Facebook. Camillus, in the time we got left here, every guest that I've had on since this has happened, I ask about your family personally and yourself personally. You alluded to it a little bit, but Tell me, how do you feel right now? What's going through your mind about this crisis, and assess what the government's doing, on the federal and state level, and how it's impacting your family?
Well, it's I can tell you, but I have to be very cautious because I have a 21-year-old son that lives with me. He's he attends Pitt Community College. Matter of fact, he would come out this. It's supposed to come out in May. However, he has asthma and peanut allergy, so I got to be very cautious how I come and go. And then, like I said, I have a dad, 86 years old, so I take care of him. So I try to, be cautious around him. But like I said, I think what we need is a 2-week shutdown here. And I say the state of North Carolina because I don't think it has peaked. Because, see, like I said, all those cases coming up in Edgecombe County, family and friends are not being tested are not even taking this thing serious. They still coming and going. So that's why we're seeing the numbers go up every day, because those people, walking around with it, and then until people find out that they, been around somebody or been tested, I mean, they're still out, coming and going just like it's nothing, So I just think that, I want to see all the leaders and especially the pastors, while they're focusing on having church, that they come together and focus on what's good for all the people, because a lot of people don't have a voice. It's killing me. I'm trying to work during the day. When I get home, I'm trying to educate myself and educate people. That's something, like you said, I've been doing over the years, and I do it out of pocket, So I'm trying to attend the meetings. I was, up until last week, attend the meetings, the county meetings and stuff, so I can educate the people. And so last week, the last meeting, I recorded from my phone online, and then put it on my web page, on my YouTube page, so people can have access to it. So I think we just all need to come together and do what we can, and be on one accord. But we have got to do something to get them to shut it down for at least a week or two. I think that's the only way that's going to flatten the curve.
I hear you, Camillus. It's amazing that people are still out there going about their way and not seeming to care about other folks. And I have a son that has peanut allergies too and asthma, so I'm quite aware of the concern. He's a college student as well, and I'm concerned when he was still having to go to class and whether or not other people around him were paying attention. I tell him what to do, but still other folks don't seem to want to do the right thing. Well, Camillus, again, I want to thank you for taking the time to come in and talk with us. I want you to be on standby for me, because I want to check back with you in a couple of weeks and see how things did turn out in Edgecombe County. And for the folks who are listening from around the country or in other countries, I think if you know anything about Eastern North Carolina, these small towns, they're a lot like small towns in Iowa and Nebraska and South Dakota, where we expect to see the numbers increase. This is not just about New York City. So, Camillus Dancy, thank you for being on the deal.
Thank you, and I appreciate you. Contact me anytime, day or night. If I don't pick up, I'll get back with you. I appreciate all you're doing, brother. I keep up with you, too. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. So we're going to take a small break, and when we come back, we're going to talk with H.D. Pope of H.D. Pope Funeral Home in Roanoke Rapids in Rocky Mount, and Stacy Walker of Walker Funeral Home in Lillington, North Carolina, about how it's changed the funeral industry and funerals. So stick and stay. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll be with H.D. Pope and Stacy Walker.
Keep bouncing.
1 in 3 adults has prediabetes. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org.
And welcome back to our final segment of the deal. I'm your host, Ed Clark, and we've been talking today about COVID-19 and its impact on folks. Earlier, we had Camillus Dancy on to talk about the escalating cases in Edgecombe and Nash and Wilson County in eastern North Carolina, and how small towns are being impacted. So in this final segment, we wanted to bring on some folks who are in the business that are certainly being impacted by COVID-19. Have as guests H.D. Pope of Pope Funeral Home in Roanoke Rapids and Rocky Mount, and Stacy Walker of Walker Funeral Home and Cremation in Lillington, North Carolina. H.D. and Stacy, welcome to the deal.
Thank you so much, Mr. Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Clark.
So, Stacy, I want to start with you. You're in Harnett County, which is where I'm from. the latest numbers I saw, there were around 50, over 50 cases and 3 deaths, and Harney County has about 100,000 people. So those aren't really good numbers. But what I wanted to talk to you about is being a small business to start with, and then the impact of COVID-19 on your business. You've had to change how you conduct funerals. One, because the state's mandated it that way, but just from a practical purpose. I'm thinking then that also means that revenue probably goes down because some things you can't do. Can you talk to me about how you've had to change funerals, and is that impacting your bottom line?
Yes, it is, Ed. What's happening now, instead of being able to grieve in the process of where the families have the companionship of others, you cannot do that now because you have to stay 6 feet apart, and because of all the precautions that we have to take for the staff and for our community. As far as, it has an impact on the bottom line as far as use of our vehicles, buildings, just overall grieving for the families.
Mm-hmm. And HD, you're a little more established business. You've been around a lot longer. What are people in your community saying about the change in funeral practice? And I guess the follow up to that is, do you think even after COVID-19 is over, if it's going to continue to be this way?
Well, surprisingly, I've had the majority of the families to understand. Mm-hmm. And, when we talk with our families, even our whole association in the state, we have all come together and we have conversations with each other throughout North Carolina, so we can all try to follow the same patterns. And if there's something that sticks out, we kind of share that information with each other. But from what I'm gathering across the whole state, people, they're in an understanding mode. However, you do have people that just are so used to traditional. When death happens and you go to a funeral, quite naturally, you're going to want to shake and hug and embrace. Mm-hmm. And you just have to think in your conscious mind, I can't do that.
Right.
And so overall, we have not had any problems. But out of about 38 cases that we've done so far in the last month or so, we've only had about 3 funerals per se. Okay. We can still have a funeral, but you can only have 50 people, and that includes staff as well as the clergy. And what we are finding is that you do not have a lot of senior people to show up. It's mainly middle-aged people that will come, but we haven't had 50 to show up at a funeral thus far.
Right. I want to remind the viewers, you're watching The Deal with Ed Clark on thedealwithedclark.com. You can also hear me on Foxy 107, 104 on Connections with Val Atkinson on Sundays. We are fortunate to have H.D. Pope of the Pope Funeral Home in Roanoke Rapids and Rocky Mount, North Carolina, and Stacy Walker of Walker Funeral Home and Cremation in Lillington. Stacy, have you done any new practices that you hadn't done before? I know I've seen in some other places people doing video feeds of the funeral. Are you doing anything like that as a different service than you would normally do?
Yes, we are live streaming our gravesides per the family's request, because like Mr. Pope had mentioned, that people are not being able to gather in the process of the grieving. Yes, we live stream, and you can see that through our Facebook Live.
Right. So I guess I'll throw this question out to both of you as we kind of wrap up our time here. Do you see any long-term changes in funerals based on this? Do you think people will say, well, you know what, I don't really need to have all the bells and whistles and accoutrement of a regular funeral and maybe do something different? Or have you seen like maybe people be more willing to do cremations or anything like that and not just around COVID-19, but have we started to change our funeral practices in the African American community as a whole?
Well, Mr. Clark, prior to COVID-19, the funeral industry has been taking a curve as a whole anyway, even in the African American community. I used to do 5 cremations in a year. Now I may do 5 cremations in a week.
Wow.
So that curve has changed, and even though the virus is here, what I see that the African American community is having a struggle with is that typically our funerals are going to be a little bit longer, and especially depending upon the denomination. But I see them struggling with, I can only do a private viewing and go straight to the gravesite. I don't feel like I'm giving them their just due.
Right.
So I see the family struggling with that. However, the majority, like I said before, they're looking after their own health.
Yeah.
And they don't have a problem with it. Now, something I want to put out here is that, when this thing comes to the flattening and America opens back up and start back to work, if we look in longevity in the funeral profession, we will start to struggle at that point. Because people that are out of work right now, they will lose their life insurance.
Wow.
So if they're paying for their mother's and father's life insurance, and then they're going to show up and they're going to say, I was paying it, but I lost the coverage because I wasn't at work. Now what can you guys do for me? That's going to put us in a situation at that point,
Yeah.
So
I'm so glad you brought that up. I that never occurred to me. That's why I have you guys on here to educate the viewers and myself. I mean, that is a big deal because Stacy, I'll do a follow-up question on that. You're in a very small rural area, and I'm pretty sure a lot of times there's a question about, can I afford this to begin with? And
Exactly.
yeah, can you talk to me about, do people do pre-need? Do they, or what are you seeing people do? Do they come to you with some chickens, to try to trade for a funeral? I mean, what goes on in a small town like that?
If you only knew, Mr. Clark. But no, for the most part, we do have people that do pre-need, which is an excellent thing to do. So when that time does come, there's no wonderings what shoulda, coulda, woulda. They know exactly what needs to be done. The family, their loved ones. Insurance have picked up life insurance for people since COVID-19 has been around, since we have got hit with this pandemic. But overall, yeah, in the small towns, yeah, it's a lot of trying to bargain. But
Right.
At the end of the day, like I said, we work with everybody that comes in. Everybody's situation is different, but life insurance is something that is very much needed.
I hear you. Wow. That never occurred to me, and I'm so glad I had you guys on. And hopefully that'll open some eyes and make people think about doing some more long-term planning, because I do see it a lot, especially in the African American community, where time of a funeral, everybody's kind of scrambling and scraping to try to make something happen, and obviously without a job, it's hard to pay those premiums. So hopefully that somebody heard that message, Mr. Pope, and will think about how they're going to go about that, and I'm presuming for both of you that you guys offer some sort of pre-need, pre-arrangement kind of things through your funeral homes. Is that true?
Well, yes, sir, we both do. I have a very large case of pre-need. That's actually how I got into the business of teaching people about insurance, term, whole life, universal life, as well as pre-need, and how it should work, because all policies don't fit all people. You have to take a look at that person's situation and design something that will help them. One thing that I focus on here at H.D. Pope Funeral Home is to teach people how to be Medicaid ready. and by doing so, they do not lose their property. They don't lose their life insurance, and they know how to properly start to establishing themselves prior to that 5-year window. That's something that has helped us to build the future business in pre-need, and that's something that I just wish I could share with everybody in the whole world, and the different things that you should and should not do. And one thing that has happened very surprisingly is watching who your beneficiary is, because if your beneficiary owes child support, guess what? You will not be using that money for the funeral. It's going to go straight to those children that beneficiary owe.
Oh.
So we need to know what is happening in their life, But back to the virus.
Excuse me, Mr. Pope, I wanted to cut you off. Also, the fact that when you put a beneficiary down, that it needs to be over the age of 18.
Yes.
Okay.
Because,
again,
yeah,
it's something I didn't know.
And not on Medicaid.
And not on Medicaid, correct.
Wow.
Yes.
Did not know that. So we're learning a lot here, folks. I mean, you're listening and watching the deal with Ed Clark, and I have H.D. Pope from Pope Funeral Home and Stacy Walker from Walker Funeral Home and Cremation in Lillington, North Carolina. We were talking about COVID-19 and how it's changed the funeral industry, but I knew we would get more out of it than that. We're coming up on the end of our time, and I know you guys are busy and have things to do. Right now, I'm going to go ahead and ask you guys to come back at some other time and talk pre-need, talk insurance, talk a lot of those same topics that we just brought up, because I think that's one of the things that we need in our communities is to understand more fully how to prepare for end of life. I don't think people prepare well enough for that. So I'm extending that invitation for both of you guys to come back whenever you have time.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you again, Mr. Clark.
Yeah. So again, that's H.D. Pope from Pope Funeral Home in Roanoke Rapids and Rocky Mount, North Carolina. Stacy Walker from Walker Funeral Home and Cremation in Lillington, North Carolina. I'm Ed Clark. You've been listening to The Deal. We'll be back on Wednesday night. We'll have some more guests. We'll do this all again. We'll have Val Atkinson in, our political science professor, and we'll catch up on all the political news. In the meantime, do something good for somebody, and by all means protect yourself, but protect others too. Don't take this cavalier. Camillus Dancy talked to us about some of the things that were going on in his area that just aren't right, and it's leading to people being diagnosed with COVID-19. So in the meantime, we'll see you on Wednesday night. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.
Why should young people care about the spread of coronavirus? Well, we know that people with underlying medical conditions over the age of 60 are at highest risk, but they've got to get it from somebody.
So we're asking everyone to be selfless for others so that we can protect those who are most susceptible.
Not going to bars, not going to restaurants. It all just means physical separation so that you have a space between you and others.
For more information on how you can social distance, please go to coronavirus.gov.